listen to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson.
Tonight, in bipartisan fashion, with overwhelming majority of votes, we passed the American Relief Act of 2025. This is a very important piece of legislation. It funds the government, of course, until March of 2025. That was a big priority for us. This is America First legislation because it allows us to be set up to deliver for the American people. In January, we will make a sea change in Washington. President Trump will return to D.C. and to the White House, and we will have Republican control of the Senate and the House. Things are going to be very different around here. This was a necessary step to bridge the gap, to put us into that moment where we can put our fingerprints on the final decisions on spending for 2025. We also, in this bill, as you know, took care of Americans who desperately needed and deserved the assistance. We had a record hurricane season. Hurricanes Helene and Milton in particular did dramatic damage across at least 6 states, the Carolinas, Virginia, from Florida, Tennessee, all the way through. And they had been waiting for the federal government to assist. We did that tonight in this bill. We also took care of our farmers, many of whom were on the brink of collapse because of Bidenomics, frankly, because the inflationary cost of their inputs and the inability they have right now to get loans from the banks and the lenders to put their crops in the ground, to put the seeds in the ground in the spring. So we had to take care of that, and we did. We are excited about this outcome tonight. We're grateful that everyone stood together to do the right thing. And having gotten this done now as the last order of business for the year, we are set up for a big and important new start in January. We can't wait to get to that point.
All right, so you guys heard what happened. I'm not going to sit here and talk about what was in the bill, what was taken out of the bill, or, you know, what party did what. I don't really care. But what I did want to talk about was about how these politicians never cease to hold Americans hostage, or Americans' livelihoods hostage, all for their little, like, special projects. Like, for example, they'll have, I don't know, they'll have a bill that's called Save Babies, and then in the bill will be like 40 billion to Israel and like 80 billion to Ukraine. It's just fucking ridiculous. I don't understand why you guys can't just focus on keeping the government open. How about that? Why can't we just like focus on, you know, things that are going on in our own borders? Like, and oh yeah, and the part that really gets me about this whole thing is that there was a part apparently that was taken out of the bill, but there was also some stuff, you know, from fact checkers that said this wasn't true. So there's supposed to be some kind of a pay raise for Congress that seems to be somewhere around 35 to 40%. I've already seen a few fact checkers shoot this one down and say it was more like 4% rather than 40. But apparently Congress hasn't had a pay raise since like 2009. But honestly, they're still in the top, like, at least 85% of income earners in the United States. Like, you guys don't need a fucking raise. Come on, look at the last couple years that you got. Like, just the last few years by itself. Like, don't even go back to fucking like 2010. Like, you just go back like 3 years and just, you guys don't really the audacity that you would even ask for a raise right now is wild. I mean, what happened in the past couple years? You got the border, you got the whole COVID situation, you got inflation, you got jobs, more wars, stupid endless wars, and you got more money going somewhere else. While there's literally homeless people here dying in the street, starving in the street in your own country. Just the audacity that you would even propose this request or whatever you want to call it is just outrageous. Anyway, besides that, I believe Congress is actually protected from the shutdown in the way that they still get their paychecks, which is also crazy. I believe their staffers don't get paid. Or, for example, people like their staffers don't get paid, but Congress, they still get their paychecks. And that's good, right? Well, I totally don't agree with that. If the government shuts down and it's obviously their fault, they should also not get paid. Or let's say let everyone else get paid except for Congress. Or just, you know, or at least don't pay the congressmen also. Or congresswomen too, whatever you want to do. I think someone should look into that. I don't think I've ever seen anyone say anything about Congress getting paychecks, but I think they should definitely not get paid during a government shutdown. So it's just supposed to, like give them a soft kick in the rear to get them, to do their jobs. This is what you're here to do. So when it shuts down, that means it also affects you. You don't go home and collect your paycheck while everybody else does not collect their paycheck. That's ridiculous. So a lot of this stuff, I think the entire thing is basically disaster relief for Americans. I haven't seen what they took out. I think Elon Musk put something on X, but I haven't seen the post that he did. But the fact that it took them this long to do some disaster relief is crazy. And then they have the audacity to ask for a raise. This is why. This is the whole reason why I would not ever give Congress a fucking raise.
Now, all of a sudden, we have an outside influence who believes, I think he is president, and that's President Musk, who has not elected, has no authority, and trying to really upend what the services are to the American people.
But we actually are now getting our first taste, this is it, live and in living color, about what it means to have this Doge right out here and what that's going to mean. And that's where Elon Musk's fingerprints are all over this. Because, for example, what this bill says is, let's get rid of funding for research on pediatric cancer. Let's get rid of funding for research on early detection of cervical cancer and breast cancer. Let's get rid of funding for research on children with Down syndrome and on sickle cell anemia. Let's get rid of those things so that we can make way for tax cuts for billionaires. That is Elon Musk's notion of efficiency.
So this is what Doge is doing essentially. They're trying to, Department of Government Efficiency. They're trying to make the government work more efficiently. Basically is what their job is. And I don't understand why people are saying that Elon is the real president. Like, the president's job isn't to do that, really. You can, but that's not really your sole purpose. That is literally Elon's sole purpose as being head of Doge. All right, so here we got Elizabeth Warren, Miss Pocahontas, Miss I am Native American, and nothing else, talking about the cancer research funding, trying to pull on some emotions a little bit, knowing full well that the House Republicans already passed this like way back in March of this year, and it's actually just being held up by Chuck Schumer. In reality, she's trying to pretend that Chuck Schumer isn't holding up this bill because he hasn't put it on the floor for a vote yet. So obviously, clearly, the Democrats are holding up the funding for this cancer research that they're talking about. So there's that.
The U.S. House of Representatives appears to be on the verge of approving a bill to avert a federal government shutdown. The pared-down plan winning support from both Democrats and Republicans after Donald Trump set off a scramble here in Washington when he tanked a previously negotiated bipartisan deal. Let's get right to our chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is up on Capitol Hill. Manu, update our viewers on the very latest.
Yeah, this is on the verge of passing, Wolf, averting a scare at the last minute. A government shutdown just on the horizon in a matter of hours. But now the House is poised to pass this bill well over the threshold, the 2/3 majority needed to pass this bill that would keep the government open up until mid-March. Right now is a 366 to 34 vote. That's well over the 290 votes that would be needed, assuming all members are here and present. So that, and right now it looks like it's broken down. A lot of Republicans in favor of it. Well, 170 Republicans voting in the affirmative, just 34 voting against it. And the Democrats, more Democrats have supported this. In fact, 196 Democrats. There's not a single Democratic no vote. Now, this came all after a scare over the last several days, and then the aftermath of Donald Trump intervening late and scuttling a separate bipartisan deal that had been reached. It appeared to be on a glide path to becoming law. Trump demanding major changes, including to include an increase of the national debt limit, something he wanted off the table, so we would have to deal with it in the next Congress. That is a perennially difficult issue for Congress to deal with. He didn't want to have to handle it. He said, deal with it now. But Congress had a very difficult time in responding to that demand. In fact, one of a proposal backed by him yesterday failed. That went down with the support opposition of 38 Republicans and Democrats because of that demand of Donald Trump's to include the national debt limit increase. So today, all day long, they've been negotiating behind closed doors, trying to figure out how to placate Donald Trump's concerns and win over Democrats as well. And it looks like, Wolf, that the gavel just came down and that this bill has, in fact, passed the House of Representatives. It will go over now to the Senate, and that's where they'll act on this later tonight, Wolf. And so at the moment, this bill.
Okay, so you see, nothing to worry about. They all came together at the last minute, literally a few hours before the government was supposed to close, and they overwhelmed. They needed 290 votes to pass the bill. They got 366, and not a single Democrat voted against it. What does that tell you? Because they blocked it the first time, and now it's completely overwhelmingly passed, except for 34 Republicans. But that just shows you what politicians do. They try to sneak all this bull into the bill when they could have just voted on these individually instead of cramming it all into the bill and then having this issue of where they try to hold the American people and their livelihoods hostage, just so they can get their special bullshit into this bill so it can pass. And we come back in March, and in March we're probably gonna have we're gonna be talking about this same thing again in March. I almost guarantee you. All right, so I'll tell you what I think. I think it's good that they eliminated a lot of the crap from this bill, and they were able to keep some good stuff, like disaster relief for farmers and people in disaster areas, because we did have a really bad hurricane this last spring or last summer. But honestly, this shit should have been passed a long time ago. Like a long time ago. This is how these politicians work. They try to push through they try to cram a bunch of stuff into this bill and try to basically push this giant steaming pile of shit up to Senate at the last minute. And then when it doesn't go through, they start, pointing their fingers at each other and saying, they don't want to pass the bill because of yada yada. And then the media does their thing and, try to blame whoever for the bill not passing. But I think they do this to put pressure on the Republicans or make it look like the Republicans are at fault here. But it seems that it didn't work because the Democrats would have gotten a lot of blame for this government shutdown, which is why you can see they clearly all voted yes for this bill. At the last minute. So I wouldn't say this is a straight W, but my overall performance evaluation, my overall evaluation of their performance, not great, but better than it was before. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you later. Bye.